It was a cold April night in 1915, and a single misplaced digit would echo through a century of baseball. The New York press ran the headline murderer's deal, Giants offer $50,000 to pitcher, and fans gasped like it was a robbery. The truth. A simple clerical error that turned a $5,000 offer into a $50,000 promise, 10 times the average salary of any ballplayer that season. In that moment, a typo sparked a battle that reshaped ownership, players' rights, and the money of the game forever. Baseball in 1915 was a rough-and-tumble business. The Federal League had just folded, leaving the American and National Leagues to scramble for talent, while the average player earned barely $4,500 a year. The highest-paid star, Christy Mathewson, pulled in about $33,000, still a fraction of the $50,000 that would appear on a contract form in the next hour. Chicago Cubs owner Charles Weiss had a reputation for stinginess. His club paid a modest $25,000 for the entire roster in 1914. Yet his rival, New York Giants manager John McGraw, was determined to lock down a young arm named Marty O'Shea, a right-hander who had just posted a 2.13 ERA with the minor league Rochester Hustlers. O'Shea's breakout season made him the hottest commodity west of the Mississippi. On April 12, the Giants front office drafted a contract on a typewriter still fresh from the morning's newspaper run. The line read, salary $50,000 per season, payable in equal installments. The intended figure, as McGraw later confirmed, was $5,000. A stray zero slipped in while a hurried typist slammed the keys. In 1915, such a mistake could not be erased with a simple backspace. The contract was printed on thick cream paper, hand-delivered to O'Shea's agent, and mailed to the player that very night. By morning, the local press had the story. Fans were debating whether the Giants could actually afford the sum, and the league office started fielding frantic calls. A $50,000 salary was more than the total payroll of many franchises combined. When O'Shea saw the figures, his heart raced. A $50,000 contract meant superstardom, wealth beyond imagination, and a chance to retire on a beach in Florida at 30. He called his mother, who burst into tears, believing her son had finally made it. Yet the Giants' accountant, Samuel Kelly, spotted the discrepancy before the ink dried. Kelly rushed to McGraw's office, papers trembling, and whispered, "John, that's a typo. No one can pay that." McGraw, a man of iron will, was furious. "We'll sign him, Kelly," he growled, "and we'll find a way to pay." The Giants, flush with gate receipts, $1.2 million that season, were desperate to beat the Boston Red Sox, who had just clinched their second World Series. The next day, the league's counsel, Frederick Trout, issued an emergency memo. All contracts exceeding $30,000 must be reviewed for approval. The National League's president, John Hadler, called an emergency meeting in New York City. In a smoky backroom at the Waldorf Astoria, owners debated whether the Giants were attempting a salary war that could destabilize the entire business. Meanwhile, O'Shea's agent, Tommy Hart, saw an opportunity. He called the Boston Red Sox and whispered, "If New York can't pay, we have a star on the table for a fraction of that amount." The Red Sox offered $15,000, a tidy profit for both player and agent. The Giants, still grappling with their blunder, sent a telegram, "Contract void, mistake acknowledged." The whole saga erupted in the national newspapers. The New York Times ran a front-page editorial, "A $50,000 error, the price of carelessness." The public, already fed stories of the looming Black Sox scandal, demanded accountability. Fans of the Giants flooded the Polo Grounds demanding an explanation, while those in Boston cheered the prospect of a new ace on their roster. The fallout forced the league to act. In July 1915, the National League adopted the Contract Clarity Amendment, requiring every player agreement to be notarized and double-checked before submission. It also established a modest salary ceiling of $30,000 for any single season, a figure designed to prevent another astronomical blunder. The amendment had unintended consequences. It gave the owners a new lever over players, but it also galvanized the players' union, then a loose coalition of disgruntled veterans. In 1916, a group of shortstops and catchers formed the Baseball Brotherhood, demanding a transparent payroll system. Their first meeting quoted the O'Shea typo as the catalyst. "If a typo can turn a $5,000 man into a $50,000 billionaire, imagine what we can achieve when we own the numbers." The Brotherhood's lobbying led to the 1920 Players' Compensation Act, which mandated that any contract exceeding $10,000 be subject to arbitration by an independent panel. That panel's first case involved a 1922 dispute between the Los Angeles Angels of the Pacific Coast League and a star hitter who claimed the team owed him $12,500, not $1,250 as printed. The panel ruled in the player's favor, citing the O'Shea precedent that a clerical error could not be used to shortchange a worker. Over the next decades, the ripple effect of the 1915 typo grew. By the 1960s, when the Minnesota Twins signed pitcher Jim Cott for a record $400,000, the contract clause read, "All figures reviewed by 3 independent accountants." The phrasing was a direct descendant of the post-typo reform. Modern free agency, cemented by the 1975 SATS decision, would have looked very different without that early push for standardized, verified contracts. Financially, the $50,000 typo underscored a stark reality. A single player's salary could outpace entire team operating budgets. In 1915, the St. Louis Browns posted a total payroll of $94,000. By 2025, the average MLB team payroll exceeds $180 million, and the $50,000 blunder would be eclipsed by a single minimum salary player earning $715,000. Yet the principle remains: transparency in payroll protects the integrity of the game. The legacy of that April night reverberates in today's multi-million-dollar deals. When the New York Yankees inked Jarrett Cole for a record-tying $365 million contract in 2023, the agreement included a salary verification protocol that required 3 separate audits before each payment. The clause's origin traces back to a footnote in a 1916 league ruling that cited the infamous 50,000 typo. Even the analytics boom of the 2000s owes a debt to the incident. Sabermetrician Bill James, in his 1985 book, The Bill James Historical Baseball Abstract, wrote, "If a typo can change a franchise's destiny, then precision in data is the modern equivalent." Teams now employ dozens of statisticians to avoid a $50,000 mistake in a player's projected WAR value, a miscalculation that could cost a franchise millions in lost ticket sales. Culturally, the story became legend. Kids in Little League across America learn about the 50,000 typo as a cautionary tale about paying attention to the numbers. It's featured in museum exhibits at the National Baseball Hall of Fame, where an original typewriter ribbon stained with ink sits beside a framed copy of O'Shea's contract. One page of salary, $50,000 crossed out in red. And perhaps the most profound impact is the way it shifted power. Owners learned that a single misprint could ignite public outcry, that fans cared about the fairness of the game as much as the score. Players, emboldened by the Brotherhood's early victories, grew confident enough to demand representation, eventually forming the MLB Players Association in 1953. The MLBPA's first collective bargaining agreement, signed in 1968, included a clause stipulating all salary figures shall be printed in duplicate legibly and verified by both parties. From a hurried keystroke to a league-wide reform, the $50,000 typo proved that in baseball, as in life, a single digit can rewrite history. The next time a player steps up to the plate, remember that his chance to swing for the fences was forged not just by talent, but by a misplaced zero that forced the game to ask, who really holds the power? And that, dear fans, is why every number on a contract matters, because behind each figure lies the soul of America's pastime.